I must say this has been such a fulfilling and wonderful event.
I really enjoyed that tape. It was pretty enlightening, and it's all part of a DVD that I'm planning. It's a 5-part series, right? Yeah. And I strongly recommend that if you like to get it, you can order it from Sister Fitra. She lives over in Jersey, and her order, you can order it online, and it's $50 for the 5-set case, right? So I strongly recommend that you order it and keep it for your own personal library, right? We invited Imam Mohammed to come. He's a rising star and young member of our community that is a product of the early Nation of Islam. His dad and family members were members of the Nation of Islam and students of Imam Muhammad. And we asked that he would be our guest to help lead a discussion after viewing this video. And so he was kind enough to accept our invitation. So I'd like to invite him to come before us and start our conversation about this program we just watched.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Everybody's asleep. I'm trying to I have my notes over here. We don't have that much time, so I'm just going to summarize what I wanted to say. But before I do that, I would like for you all to, I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on what you heard in this presentation. No, that's fine. Any feedback? What do you think about what you heard?
Well, I'm kind of familiar with some of the individuals that spoke and some other people that I would like to see more of the academic approach. A lot of that I've heard out of these same individuals' mouths. But I think it was time, it's on time, it's something that we need. It's something that needs to be put out for the community wealth. Not that I'm one now, I don't want anything caught in my personal library, because once I see it, I'm not going to watch it. We need to find out how this can be put on YouTube, a website, somewhere where people can access it, the general community. Because for too long, we've been keeping things closed. So, I mean, I'm with the technology today. If I had known the initial broadcast was on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. Yeah. I would have watched it, but our communication barrier is kind of like broken down. So, and even though it takes money to publish things, we can do pay-per-view type things that I feel that this information needs to get out. I came through that same similar experiences right here in Philadelphia, the main line, living in different communities around the country. So I know what the movement's the significance was for me personally and my family and those people that I was able to share things with. Everybody wasn't picked to come that path, you know, and even now, everybody's not going to be on that same path, but the influence and the experience we share with other people that God-fearing or other believers, you know, but I'm thankful that Brother Rahim and the New African Center and the IPIC program has made this opportunity for people to come out and see this series or lecture or a discussion. And basically that's all I have to say right now, but I'm thankful and I feel that it's something that's really needed. We need to have more of the academic folks to start dealing with this, because as we move on in our educational experiences, some of us need credentials.
That's true.
Some of us need credentials to verify the small things that were established by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, that's great. I mean, that arena that they're in, that platform, it's needed. And that's all I really got to say.
You want to sit in a circle? We can sit in a circle.
Oh, okay.
That'll be a little more intimate.
All right. Yeah, I want not really speak too much. But
No, that was right on, because the
Yeah,
one thing
yeah.
that I got from them was that not only do we need more academia to speak to our history, we need to also put our story in academia.
Yeah, right.
And so, like you're saying, there are HBCUs, there are other institutions, everybody's talking about Islam and getting all these speakers that do have credentials. But we should get our story in that environment and qualify ourselves so we can speak with authority to the discussion. How about you?
I count this as a blessing. I being one that marched in the early development of the nation of Islam prior to 1975. I stood up here in Philadelphia. The first study was established under Mr. Neil's father. And I currently am a member of the Nation of Islam, which is inclusive. I've never saw my understanding, or I never allowed my understanding of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to be limited in any way, shape, or form. I've always lent myself and lent my ear to the academic attainment of Islam. So, my relationship with Brother Rahim, in the last week we were here, Brother Rahim, we were here sitting in a little circle. Just last week we sat together. And forget what brought us together last week, but I was there. And what's important for me is that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for me, has served as a bridge that still remains to be utilized fully. It says in that book that we were taught at one time, prior to 1975, and in my early advent into the Nation of Islam, the Bible, a poison book. It needed an interpretation. It needed understanding. It says in that last book of Malachi that before that great and dreadful day, I'm going to send you Elijah. And he's going to turn the hearts of the father unto the son and the hearts of the sons unto the father. And lest I smite the earth with a curse. What I'm seeing now, which is a great thing, I'm beginning to see brothers that were active prior to 1975. And myself, reaching across, as it was on our newspaper, hands reaching across the world, or the word, as Brother Imam had said on the lecture, or the conversation there, that the only difference between the word and the world is the letter L. But as we reach across with this word, things that are lying in you, brothers, from your experience of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, putting your eyes on them and soldiering under that program. And those of us who came up at another time and didn't have the pleasure of working under the actual being and presence of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad over our nation, joining hands and putting this academics and putting this understanding and this bridging of Islam, their commonality. I don't care where you come from. Only thing that disturbs me is when I hear people say, well, that's shirk and I'm not this and I'm not that. And you go stand over there. We're going to do this. We are going to do this. Anyone that wants to isolate themselves unto a circle unto themselves, clear it over there. Because the masses of the people are riding on another rhythm. As Brother is saying, scholarship plus that now. But all they did was just evolve in a circle. Never went outside of that circle. And one thing that we all had the experience of, and it's new for me, well, the last 40 years, but we have, and we still do, drill. They got one thing they call marking time. And all you doing is, you ain't went nowhere until somebody said, forward, march, then you take a step. But if you're just marking time, you're when you're holding the ground, not going anywhere. So this merging that I see beginning to happen out of necessity, to not only for the perpetuation of our people, but also our belief system is necessary. We have to overcome all those barriers. So I'm grateful for settings like this. You know, it's just a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and what I got from you, the importance of a study group, and to understand not just the history, but also appreciation of the language that was used in the transition and in different periods.
Yes.
And when you reconnected the word and the world, only thing that's missing is the L, the distinction. I put that L as language. So I think if we start to, which we plan to do, have study groups with our community, like you mentioned in this setting, in academic studies settings, we can attain, as you said, this bridge, the uses of the bridge to move forward. Yes, sir. How about yourself?
I was fortunate to come up and my parents joined until the 57, my mother 59. And I remember, going to elementary school and not crossing my hand, when pledge of allegiance. And it was me and a Jehovah's Witness, a guy named, his name was Elijah. And all the students at Walker School were not doing that. But then at the time I was in high school, all my friends, everybody just flocked to the Nation of Islam. They would look at me and say, wow, man. My mother would come up with long dresses and all that, and I would feel embarrassed, But, I actually saw where, being in the minority, being part of the majority, and the Nation of Islam saw its best days, 73 to 75, in the city. Temples all over, and I'm said, fortunate to have come in that group, and I don't regret it at all. It's really amazing. Just recently, the last couple of weeks, taking my son to watch documentaries about Malcolm X and that whole transformation and that good teaching to clean people up. I just credit where I am in life. We've come, up in the Nation of Islam. I'm working with a small group of people, alumni of Mohammed University of Islam, number 12. Okay. We're planning a reunion. And we've had about 3 meetings. We have dues, and we're actually looking at our venue and itinerary and reaching out to old faculty members, Sister Alpha Shane, still around, Archie up in Trenton. So we have that in the planning stage, and definitely that in the loop as we formalize the actual event. But it's I feel fortunate. I was happy to bring my son here. I told him about this place and looking around. I haven't been here in a while since we were working on that documentary a few years back. So it's a beautiful thing. And I think the time is coming where people are really going to look at that time period, Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, and look to that contribution and to that phenomenal occurrence, and give it its proper relevance in the history of African American people and Muslims in America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're in the midst of that whole process, and we have to preserve our history. Those who went through it, make sure that it's preserved properly. You know.
I want to interject something. Being an active member in the Nation of Islam right now, Moscow 122508 North Broad, I'm seeing right now, and all across the nation, and traveling back and forth. I just came back from Chicago Singles Day last week, and I'm seeing more and more of our pioneers come back in their house with tears in their eyes and a willingness for the resurgence of a necessary element. Like as they were closing out, there were many things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught, but some of the basic things that were elementary to the followers are the most necessary and needed in our community today. Security, proper eating, dietary, education system. These are the things that we've been robbed of or allowed to go instead of continuing it on and building and developing it to a next level. So I'm beginning to see an influx of people beginning, particularly here in Philadelphia, because I call this the city of Muslims. I was sitting with a sister yesterday at a gathering at the Guardian Civic League, and she's running for political office. I forget exactly what, I want to say, no, it's not city council. Forgetting exactly the office that she's running for. But anyway, she pointed out that West Philly in particular, West Philadelphia has the largest count, census-wise, of Muslims in the city of Philadelphia. West Philadelphia has a preponderance of masjids and mosques, and individuals that are trying to do something that are raising the flag of Islam. West Philadelphia. So when we start to look at some of the strengths and bases that we've had in the city of Philadelphia, we got a strong foundation in which to build from. And I grew up not too far from here, 50/50 Walusi. I remember when Clara Muhammad opened up. I had friends that were in the first graduating class at Clara Muhammad. I know the bus drivers and everything that were there at Clara Muhammad. But I remember venturing out when we were allowed to into South Philly and go into Fifth Street projects. There was so many Muslims down there. You know what they called it? Little Mecca.
Little Mecca.
Everywhere you went. Now
This is Fifth and what?
Fifth and Christian, between Christian and Washington Avenue. You had a couple of high-rise towers, and you had the low-rise projects. I forget the actual name of the projects themselves that the adversary called them, but it was known as Little Mecca. There's that much Islam there. And again, getting back to those things that were missing or are missing in our community, they came from the Nation of Islam. There are many groups right now in the city of Philadelphia going around talking about stopping and preventing violence. There was no greater unit for that than the development of FOI, like the brother said here. He said everybody was coming into the nation. I saw it myself. 1972, I was going into Overbrook High School right up the street here. And I used to come out into the hallway between classes. I saw brothers with FOI suits on or suited and booted, bow ties. Between classes, they would go to their lockers and pull out Muhammad Speaks and slide Muhammad Speaks up under your arm. Couldn't help it. My neighbor, the Black Panthers, the brother from the Black Panthers were living to the right of my family, and to the left of us were followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So when I came home, when I was their size, I look at the table. My papa would have a Mohammed Speaks and Black Panther paper on the table. And I could, if I didn't do anything but look at the cartoons or the caricatures that were in there by Brother Majid X and others that were in those depictions, they're still in my head. I remember the picture of the family sitting there. They got the hog sitting there in a bottle of liquor, and the family, father all fat and tore up looking, the mother hair all messed up, and the children eating on a pig bone or whatever. I remember that picture at this age. So it established something, and that's the element that is missing. Now at that time, like I said, the Black Panthers were active as well. Here in Philadelphia had a strong presence of the Black Panthers. And a lot of them became members of the Nation of Islam. So with this merging of the academics and the spirit, the hearts of the fathers, the wisdom being given to those that came thereafter. And we need to get from the youth the energy. And some of us then got tired in terms of pushing this thing. It says in the Muslim studies from the cradle to the grave, but what else are you doing other than studying? Like Brother Gill said, he doesn't see any value in having something that he already watched and just going to store it in his house. What good is that? It's about propagation. So if he have it, he'll look at it and flip it to somebody else. But some of us want to avoid that type of thing. But if we take the energy of the youth and merge it with the wisdom and put this thing back out into the street like it used to be, our women and children can walk the streets again in peace. We haven't been able to do that in a long time. And I'll say this in closing. I remember a statement, and I believed it. They say that the Nation of Islam was so tight in the city of Philadelphia that you could roll your windows down on your car, put a $100 bill on the dashboard, and a Muhammad Speaks next to it. Nobody would bother your car. They wouldn't even go in there and take that $100 bill because there was force and power behind what was being represented, and nobody wanted to violate that. Nobody. But look at what we're talking about. This is black people doing this and learning that type of respect for what we had. And we haven't seen that since the strong presence of Islam in the city of Philadelphia.
Raheem, what did you think about the presentation that we saw today?
I really thought the presentation was excellent. I think that the people that were speaking and the ideas that they presented were very, very valuable. Imam Yahya Abdullah, I thought it was very informative that he highlighted the fact that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a message to the black man, what is Islam? I mean, we all read Message to the Black Man. That was our primary source of education and orientation for the Nation of Islam and its theology and everything. So many of us may have read that and then, yes, didn't understand it or just reinterpret it from a different perspective, right? But I thought it was very unique that he highlighted that. I also like, the Nation of Islam always was like, much of its message was mythical and symbolic. And now we're at this new stage where now we are interpreting the symbolism that was in much of the message of the Nation of Islam, right? One thing that I really found, I'm going to tell you one thing that this particular video opened my mind to that I didn't realize before, because sometimes we think we know everything, right?
Think we do.
Because you lived it. Sister Aisha, we didn't see that one today, but Sister Aisha was making a presentation about the struggle African Americans have had and our quest for freedom, and how the Nation of Islam in principle was just a product of that, right? Freedom, justice, and equality. And then we were basically from a generation of people that were just a couple of generations up from slavery.
That's right.
Right? And one thing she did, she ended her presentation with actually singing the lyrics and song of the song Amazing Grace. And she said that this song, Amazing Grace, was written by a slave trader.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And that this guy repented from that work. And he wrote this song, right? And then I heard in the lyrics of this song, she was saying, the thing said something about they were lost, but was found.
Right. Line. But now I see.
Right? I said, man, an amazing grace. I had heard the song about Amazing Grace before, but I really didn't grow up in no church, so I didn't sing Amazing Grace, right? But when we know Imam taught us, just like this brother said in this tape, that Prophet Mohammed studied our community. He studied Father Divine Movement. He studied Marcus Garvey. He studied Noble Drew Ali. And if he studied Father Divine, then that means that man came across Amazing Grace. And he called us the lost, found Nation of Islam. Man, that was like, I gotta think about how we want to tie that one into this story.
You just did. You just did.
So I appreciate giving the opportunity to share my thoughts about it. And I know we all can find different aspects of this video. In terms of the academic, I think it was very, very important that this college agreed to host this program. And that just as these two professors that actually opened the program highlighted the value and real significant work of the early Nation of Islam and its impact on the black community in terms of the growth of Islam in America and also its significant impact on the overall African American community and its cultural identity. The Nation of Islam played a super impact on that.
Yes.
So, yes, scholarship is really going to be a key element to really making the world aware that all of this took place. And a new generation of scholars are now beginning to study it. So I'm into that.
Mike, let me make one comment. And maybe all of us have kind of become aware of this. I was experienced in a environment where people were trying to discredit, write off, cover up the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. mainly within the African American Muslim community. And it's always been a conflict. And they use different terminology, shirk, this, that, and the other. But when you go back to the basic teachings of the program, Elijah Muhammad was teaching us Islam. Well, maybe it was in a small form or baby level, but we were putting it to practice. And I've been in a whole lot of communities where it was all talk and no work. And just like Imam Yahya said there, he was trained with discipline and respect, whereas Wednesday, Friday 8, Sunday at 2. FOI come an hour before the meeting started. First meeting I ever went up there at Germantown and Butler, Brother Alfie, the musician, was on 4. Came to my house 5 times to get me to go. When we got there, we were there at 7 o'clock. I never forgot that because there was one brother inside that opened the door and we sat there till the meeting started at 8. So that was already established, discipline, order. Right. And even, let's go back to the academic approach. So since people have been trying to cover up and bring in everybody else's program, their books and scholarship from around the world, the brothers, and this is how I got, I call Brother Raheem Egg Pick, how I admired Egg Pick, because he was bringing together people through this vast community, all of us here have experienced it, that were in that academic arena. And they had to face, when you come here, you have to look and face that we do have a foundation. We have established ourselves in the community. So we have to keep pushing. I'm a journeyman. I ain't no academician, or whatever you want to call it, academic. But we have to take those gifted in that area. This brother here, Brother Shaw, he, a filmmaker, medical scholar, and professor, and everything like that. You have to get to those different groups of people. And we just can't let people discount our legacy and make us feel, oh, we was bad. And I always heard this comment, and I know everybody here heard it. A lot of brothers, when the transition came, oh, I threw that away, and I threw this away. That wasn't right. Well, I couldn't accept that, because I didn't go to Vietnam, but I went to the nation. That's where I got my military and training. I mean, not to discount my family, my background, but we got to take this, project it to our children. If they have an academic pursuit, their direction they're going in, make it credible so they can take this to the next level. Not everybody's going to be an academic. Not everybody's going to be a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. But I feel that we have to just push those that are in that area to stand up. Because a lot of people get beat down when they go to these colleges and universities. Because they don't feel what I said earlier, that we have the credentials to, stand up amongst others in the academic arena. Now, a few of these younger people, Precious Muhammad, I didn't see him today, but I knew her father, who was very influential in getting me to stay with the nation when I went to Boston. Before she was born, I took the pictures of her mother and father's wedding. Now, all the children she went to Harvard. I don't know where she did the undergrad. Denard,
I met her.
Yeah. But the thing was, Denard's brother worked in the bakery, hooked me in to get in baking. Now, I didn't know anything about baking, but that was the vehicle for us to go. And some of us had to be the soldiers in the grassroots.
Yes, sir.
But we have to say, can't let people cover up our history. And we can't let people deny our foundation.
Did you study under
Come on, but yeah, George X. Yeah, Mr. George. Yeah.
What about his kids?
They went on to do some
Yeah. Well, I seen Saladin Majid. I saw him in D.C. and he has several children and a daughter and 4 or 5 sons. And, you know, I haven't been in contact with them in years, but they have gone on in pursuits in the world. You know, fashion. I don't know if anybody's Imam or that religious
academic.
leader.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking of,
yeah. They were
I'm
academics.
thinking that the Nation of Islam, product. Because I know they went on.
Yeah, education. Yeah.
In academia,
Yeah. Now, but even his father, even Imam Majid was a Penn researcher and master's degree and whatever. That was the difference you had in different communities,
right?
Because Elijah Muhammad was wise. And I'm gonna tell you how he did this. He would pick the ministers for the area and the expertise that they had and what he needed to do with them.
Yes.
Mr. George X, here in Philadelphia, one of the early pioneers, Elijah Muhammad, after Minister Farrakhan left Boston, there was a series of other ministers. Mr. Farrakhan went to New York. Elijah Muhammad sent Mr. George X to Boston.
He was in Camden, right? Where was he?
I don't know his history here. He may have been in Camden. But the point was, you had the academic hub, they call Boston the hub of the universe, of the world, not just
MIT,
Harvard, Radcliffe, all the schools, Cambridge College, all these schools there.
Boston. Yep.
So when I first met Minister George X, I was going to the community center, and he had a regular college curriculum course for you to come in and sit down. Okay? It was all written out. He had the book you buy.
Wow.
So he was there to address these scholars, these students, these academics, this academic arena. And he could talk because he had the credentials. See, now, he had the credentials. I went to Penn. I got a master's in research scientist. Okay? So he was on that level with them. So it was a wise decision. You sent him there. And I went everywhere with him. I used to travel. Even though I was a worker, I could drive a car. I'd be a chauffeur. But we went to Harvard, all down to Brown University, Providence, the whole area. But he could address these folks and deal with them on that level. So it wasn't like we never dealt in the academic realm, because I can't name the brothers' names. A lot of them changed their names. He plucked off. He was fishing at Harvard, MIT, Boston University. He was fishing, bringing brothers all in. Now, not that they all stayed in Boston, or maybe they all didn't stay in the nation, but that establishment of that seed was so valuable. So I think now's the time that we just got people that's trying to push that out the way. And all these brothers, you all know me on a personal level. I'm still a father of Elijah Muhammad. I never denied that. But we have people that want to work against that foundation that build us up as a people. And I'm just talking for me in my personal life. I mean, I can, Allah's my witness.
And that's why, like I said, to this day, that the fruit lesson, fruit is best. Constantly seeking to overcome all obstacles.
Meet and overcome all obstacles in his path.
Fast thinking, fast moving, right down to the modern time. Give the man a good day's work.
For honest days pay. That's right.
When you practice that kind of stuff, that's what you do. And then when you learn so-called Islam, you don't throw the baby out the bathwater. The good stuff, you maintain, you internalize it.
Well, the foundation things. Like I said, we're not going to discount what our parents gave us and what the general society gave us. But as young Men, young women taking that step and looking further. I was telling the brothers, Imam Mohammed was speaking in D.C. and I ended up going down there. So they were talking about looking at astronomy and looking out in space. And he said, when you look further, you see the Father. You know what I mean? So we all were looking further. I'm telling you, I was fortunate.
You know a rapper put that in his rap, Jay-Z?
He did?
He used that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
He got that for you.
I'm going to tell you, and this is bringing things back, because, you know, your mind, you know, doors get, you know, the rusty locks get, you got to pop them open. Mr. George was, you know, knew my background. I was from Philly. You know, okay, you Philly boy. Okay, you lived on the main line. Okay, he knew more of my little self than I did, because I'm a young guy, 19, 20 years old. So he used to always send me with the guests, drop them off at the airport. So I couldn't figure out why he would always send me, because I was always a laid back brother. You know what I mean? I was a soldier, but I was kind of laid back, kind of quiet. You know, I don't have no big ego. So, you know, later on I kept saying, well, how come I met all these people? Uncle Jan Muhammad, John E. Muhammad. I call him Uncle because these were all Honorable Elijah Muhammad's brothers. John Muhammad. And I was able to meet these people on a personal level. And they would talk to me and tell me stories. And one of the brothers, I can't tell you which one, just tell me, yeah, brother, you didn't know we used to dance? Now, I'm used to being, you know, soldiered up. Yeah, brother, we used to dance and, you know, they personalized the religion to me, you know, rather than this structured, hard frame, you know, just a skeleton, you know, overgarment shell, you know. They humanized the program for me. So that kind of like broke a lot of things down, made me think that there was a lot more to this. And the brother said, go below the surface. Dig deep, you know, look below the surface. So once I started doing that, I saw that it was so vast, and there were so many people that have had that basic experience that we'll never know. They might never tell you who was so and so and what they did in their life, and that's where I think this whole talk now, and I never. It's hard for me to think of the difference between the nation as today and the nation years ago. I've never had that difference. I never had a problem. Some people try to create. I think a lot of things were created to hold us back. You know, people push issues amongst us. You know, let me just say the fitna. You know, that old shaitan and that devil. Now I'm gonna just break it down. Will project things in between us to keep us separate, and that's one of the biggest problems that's happening in our overall Muslim community. You know that that they put stuff out there to, you know. Remember that in the paper used to have pictures of brothers with knives, daggers shooting out each other's eyes towards each other.
Yes, sir.
So those things will keep us separate. And that's what we got to really overcome now. We got to push that aside and try to lay a better foundation for these young ones to come behind us and carry it on. You know what I mean? It's just it's a must now. And when you were saying you see more and more brothers coming around, now you know, it was funny because I had to laugh. I said, yeah, well, I was telling the brother, when you get to the end of the game, you want to make the goal line. So a lot of us, we getting close to the end of the game. We want to make the goal line. Okay,
yeah.
So you want to get in the end zone. So a lot of people have to feel that they got to go back and reach out. You know, you said that picture. That brother lived in Boston for a while.
Okay.
And I remember going to the art studio and seeing them pictures up in the studio.
Wow.
You know, and those pictures were so impactful fulfilling your mind,
That's right.
you would go in and look for the pictures before you read the content.
Yes, sir.
And let me just say this, and I'm going
That's
to
it.
clarify all this. I'm going to put all this aside. I didn't buy Message of Black Man. First book I read was How to Eat to Live.
Okay.
Because Brother Alfred used to be, it was his ritual to go buy bean pies and sell them all throughout the main line.
Okay.
But just before he even got his edge,
He was selling pies.
he was selling pies. And I used to eat the pies, and I said, give me a copy of that book. Well, I didn't know about Message of Black Man. This is when I was sitting up in trees meditating out there,
Yes, sir.
across city line. I was out there sitting in a tree. So I'm on this spiritual path, but the physical path is what got me. Oh, eat, man.
Yes.
Throw the pig away, eat good, think right. So it's funny because people talk about Message of Black Man, and I heard Dick Gregory at one time. A lot of people say people don't recognize what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did. But Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the person that inspired him to do that bohemian diet. And for him to go and start thinking about his food. And the thing was, if you can control a man's eating and give us discipline, 1 meal a day, the brother broke that down, 1 meal a day, then you can control your physical issues. Overcome a lot of the physical things we have, not just health-wise, but other physical habits. So that was so powerful.
Yeah.
And back in the 70s, these brothers can bear witness in 60s, there wasn't but 1 or 2 health food stores. And I tell people to this
That's
day,
right.
white and black, or whatever color they are, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was one of the pioneers in the health food movement.
That's right.
This
That's right.
organic
That's
farming and all that,
That's right.
pioneered, pushed it,
That's right.
taught us that discipline.
Your brother's health food store, remember that?
Where was that at? Here?
Chestnut Street.
Well, see, after I got out of high school, I was up in Boston, But that
Brother Ernest, the architect that got caught up.
Edwards.
Ernest Edwards.
Yes, sir. Move project.
And
They had health food store?
Omar Sharif, Brother Ronald. They opened that right on Chestnut Street.
Yeah, but what year was
Sesame
this?
candy. Like 71.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was so much. So much that has influenced. A brother told me one time,
Jerome.
he said,
Wow.
he said, not everybody's going to be. I was looking at the pictures.
He lived
He
off
was
that
up here.
fast and
You
stuff.
still got that picture of him with the newspaper.
Mhm.
Right. It was not that every brother or sister in the community was going to be a member. So there was a calling for, in my individual nature, to step out there, sell papers, try to influence people. I used to sell papers in Harvard Square and argue and have debates with some of the world academians
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
about the program of Elijah
Yes,
Muhammad.
sir.
I didn't know I was doing it till now. I sit back and
Right.
retrospect. Yeah, I sit back. Oh man,
Yeah.
was you crazy? No, I wasn't
No,
crazy.
you wasn't.
But there's things that we have to really be thankful for and keep pushing. We got to keep this out there. We got to establish ourselves. Establish our own Muslim identity. You know what I mean? We got to keep with that. And I just never. The difference that I saw that when people try to say we had issues with the nation. Whatever we was, the American Muslim Mission and Bilalians, all that. A lot of that was perpetrated from outside through the greed and power. And that's what we have to get past. Greed and power. Yeah, I'm not going to change this program because I can't pimp the people no more. I'm not going to change my position because I got a different agenda. Because we have, some people have subliminal agendas, hidden agendas to come in our community and create fitness. Yeah, man. And we don't know. I mean, we're looking to just mess with the administration of this government and this society. Now, it's funny because back in the early days, we used to always say, they're going to have agents. They preach that on the roster. We got agents and provocateurs in here.
That's right.
We watch what we said over the phone.
Yeah. And what do you think?
Covered our mouths.
Hey, they got. I didn't even have to get my They got me, all of us on tap now. With the cell phone, they steal your pictures. They take the metadata.
Devil in this
Man. But now this is what inspired me. Fast moving, quick thinking. Right now with the modern times, if I don't have it exact.
No, you said it right.
Yeah. Now, when I heard that, I was a young guy, 20 years old. What's this old man talking about fast moving, quick thinking? Right now with the modern time. He didn't say stay back.
No,
he said be up with the modern time. So here we go. We need engineers and scientists.
That's right.
With the right foundation and base. So maybe you're an engineer or scientist. I don't know. But these things we have to push. Be with the modern time. Don't be sitting back. Don't be thinking, I can't do that. Old folks. I'm not the youngest person, but the old folks talk. Some people talk. I'm too old to get on the computer. I'm too old to get the phone. As soon as they get on there, you can't get them off. Right. Because we have to, and that's one of the things we have to use today. We have to use the technology to put out the positive information and bridge the generation gap, if that's what it is called. Mm-hmm. We have to use the technology. And I'm sorry, I don't know how I missed that. This thing if it was on Facebook Live.
It was Imam Yahya had on his, Imam Shuaib had on his website. Those were the two major ones that I knew of.
Okay, okay.
I just bought it.
And then they recorded
okay,
it,
but what I would like, I'm gonna put this out there for us right here. I met this brother over the phone before I ever even saw him. But we had the common spirit. We had the same heart. We were. Let me just say, fathers out of the last brothers. Alfie had. I call Ryan. Excuse me, because I call you Dick Pick now. And because the brothers program impacted me so heavy. I ain't never seen him, but when I found out what he was doing, the Islamic preserving this information and knowledge, and what he was trying to do, we came together because I'm riding past let me just say the masjid in Boston. Well, when we changed our presentation, this is what I'm saying now.
Yes, sir.
They took down the blackboard. We had the nation's blackboard, and then they came up with another blackboard, which was a little weaker, not as, striking.
Yeah.
So our conversation came because I rode past the masjid and they threw the blackboard out.
Do it out.
No, they thought I was sitting out for trash.
Give you an example of when the transition first.
But they had to put the blackboard out on the street, not knowing the historical and the impact, the value.
The one we used to have at headquarters actually had
Hanging on there, had a man on it. Yeah.
Hanging,
So I took the blackboard, I still got it.
Wow.
Still up there in my storage unit up in Boston.
Yes, sir.
So we came in this conversation about the blackboard. And every time I got ready to come and bring it down, I couldn't connect with you. Because I didn't know if I wanted to give it away or reproduce it. And then one time I had a presentation to some brothers. I said, we need to take this blackboard, photograph it, make pictures, frame them, and use it as a fundraiser because they were trying to start a University of Islam at Temple number 11. Okay. A lot of the brothers couldn't understand what I was saying.
Yes, sir.
I went to a friend's house. His father he was eating papers. You know what the deal was? Eating newspapers.
Yes, sir.
He had 200 or 300 newspapers from the 60s. It was Muhammad Speaks, but they were old editions. I tried to get brothers together, take the papers. Now, I'm not, I ain't regular uniform soldier. I'm talking about in the last, say, 15, 20 years ago. People looked at me like I had an extra hole out the side of my head. I mean, on both camps. Well, why do you want to sign the paper? This is correct information.
That's right.
Take this and make money. So here's come some of these crazies, I say. We had a program, not like this, but a program, had the stuff stored there. Next thing I noticed, papers got thrown out. So we got to preserve our stuff and share it and get it out there. Use the technology. Mubashir Gupta, he's working on that project to preserve all the lectures and tapes of Imam Muhammad. But we have people, Rick Pitt, don't go to sleep, was instrumental in establishing the family's collection out in Chicago. Honorable Elijah Muhammad's family.
Okay.
Now, how that happened, I volunteered for Manor Conference. I'm down there. This is my logo, the Boston hat, right? So that's I'm a professional driver. You know my experience, and I'm know how to chauffeur, and I got to know how to play, finesse somebody. So they were calling out for drivers. I didn't know anybody here in Philly. So the brother, he had to fill out an application. This is all online. I'm still traveling from Boston here. So I got one of the brothers, Imam Bilal, to sign the paper to say he knew me.
Right.
So I'm on the Manor Conference, but I'm in the transportation / security.
You're on the driver too.
Thank you, brother. / security. So I met all them brothers. Everybody that came to Manor, because only 2 of us driving.
Gotcha.
So we picked up all the people. So I said, I'll be standing in the lobby with a Boston Red Sox hat on. You can't miss me in Philly with a Boston Red Sox hat down in the hotel lobby.
Yes,
But what was so good about it? I was able to meet all these people, and a lot of people, when it was showtime, they had one posture, but when you got to talk to them, they would tell you that this was the base foundation that they got.
Yes,
and how important it was
Yes, sir.
in their growth. So so we gotta really push.
You talking the Manor?
When we had Manor Conference. So now let's go back to Raheem. So I'm down there one day, and the brother said they didn't have the vans. This is right before the whole event started. So he said, we got a brother coming in tonight down at the airport. Could somebody pick him up? I said, yeah, man, I ain't doing nothing. I got my car. I'll pick him up. So he said, the brother's name is Aleph Muhammad. Okay. I know plenty of Aleph Muhammad. I ride down there. This is my regular uniform now. I ride down there and pick him up. Sound like he was a videographer. Okay. All right. Got his equipment, got the car. I said, brother, ain't one place we can get something to eat. I said, ain't too much in Philly no more. We don't really have no restaurants. I don't even know I don't know if Sister Muhammad was open then. She might have been closed during that time. But I didn't know what was happening. So I said, brother, the best thing I could do, what's the name was up on 52nd Street?
Akeem.
No.
Garden Bilal.
Yeah. I didn't know the names.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we got one spot up there and food so and so, because I had kind of did a different diet. I wasn't in all this fried and the old school stuff. He said, well, look, man, I want something a little bit different than that. I said, we can go up there if you want. But I said, most of the stuff in Philly shut down. I didn't know about Mecca Market and all that stuff. So the brother had that vegetarian, Broad and South. He's still there.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we went
Vendors.
there. Yeah, we went there. And we got to talk. So we're riding. I said, well, yeah, brother, well, what do you do? He told me I'm a videographer, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, man. I said, we got all these different people here at the conference, but, I'm a student of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The brother, he says, oh, yeah, that was my grandfather. I looked at him, I slammed on the brakes. You BS'ing me. No, I didn't say BS. I said, he said, no, this was Herbert Muhammad's son. And I introduced him to Raheem because he's talking about, well, the family wanted to put, I said, you're at the right place.
Yes, sir.
This is the brothers that really
Yes, sir.
can hook y'all up. You remember when you hooked him up, Olive Muhammad? Because they came, he was here when you all did the work with the Smithsonian on setting up the museum, the African American Museum. Did you meet him here? There was so many people in here. I left. I couldn't.
Right.
When you had invited the people.
Oh, yeah, I met him here.
But Ickpick was a big
They got that
influence.
stuff
Yes,
from
a
down there.
big influence to help them set that family archive up in Chicago recently. When I say recently, in the last, what's that, 5 years or less?
Yeah.
But
Well, we met Halina
but-
over the phone, and she said they were already doing that. They wanted to do this national. They call it NENAP. I'm supposed to be the president of that organization.
Suppose you are the president. Mr. President, you are the
Oh, he is the
president.
president?
Supposedly the president. So you want to hold it in.
But that's
you
how
wanna hold
Lonnie's doing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
See, it's Elijah Muhammad's family.
Right.
But then, I mean, I don't
And
know.
Nathaniel
I
Muhammad's
don't get
Yeah,
into a lot of
Constantine.
politics, man. It's about working.
But yeah,
And
well,
who
that's what
wants
it's
to do the
about.
work?
Yeah.
And so,
Well, you can get caught with a lot of the academics. You can get caught in the circle if they don't have direction. See, that's
Yeah.
one thing I'm gonna tell y'all that impressed me. Totally impressed me, and I didn't know. Like I said, the imagery was so impactful. When I used to go to Temple, so at the corner of Broad and Columbia, Cecil B. and Broad, where they got that new one-block high-rise building.
Right.
There was a technical school there, Temple University Technical School. So I'm sitting up in there, supposed to be studying architectural design, but I could look out the window and see the brothers selling papers. So every morning, I don't know who it was, but the brother said, "Yeah, man, shoot that bullet underneath your arm, right?" I said, "Oh, brother, you're one of my customers." Yeah, I'm saying, I like it to be his customer. But they were out there every morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sitting up there one day, and the guys up there lecturing, and I'm looking through the paper. But every time I saw a brother in the FOI uniform, what was he doing? I'm saying, why does these guys keep standing there with their arm pointed out? That was to point us in the direction. And that image is in my mind right now. I don't have to look at the paper. You look through some of them old papers, you see every brother in the FOI uniform you ever see got their arm pointed. They're pointing in the direction. So that's what we got to do. We got to take even the people, the doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, academics, whatever they are. We have to give them direction. Because in that monotony of their world or system of knowledge, there's confusion in that too.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So we have to go beyond that, and then you have to point in direction. I met so many people here. You all been here. All these different students from all around the world that come here. Right to Ickpick. So there was a guy came and interviewed Raheem and myself, and I didn't realize that this guy was writing his master's thesis.
see, I don't really be paying attention, man.
But he did his thesis with Raheem and I in there on this interview. Now we have a lot of similarities, but even though we grew up in the same age bracket, I was on the other side of the city line, he was on this side of the city line. But what brought us together? The teaching of Elijah.
Yes, sir.
And that was the common bond. That
we have a common interest,
Yes.
and then we all have a common history, right? So that's what
Yeah.
really bonds us, and
But you got-
everybody. See, we matured to a point now that our story really has relevance. When we started this center, and even before that, a lot of people didn't really see its value, and a lot of people didn't even really see the real value of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his work. But we live in a new generation, and scholarship is now, I'm reading a book right now called Centering the Black Narrative. And it's written by Abdullah Ali, who is Maddie's son, right? Maddie came out in Nation of Islam. His mother was a genius.
Yeah.
Right?
Vegeta Ali.
Yeah.
The housewife. Yeah, Ustaf Abdullah. He's out in Zaytuna. He's teaching, but he's a doctor now. PhD. Yeah, he's out there. He's got the lamppost.
Yeah, you know, the lamppost,
Yeah, Khalil Muhsin, Milton's son.
I haven't been getting.
I was going to get the stuff. I'm going up to Atlanta for
I gotta check my
the Muslim American Conference, the second one, April 18th to the 22nd.
Okay. Let me bring this back up, and maybe y'all can help me out. When Daoud Nasir kind of like passed over the information network, I still haven't been able to meet that brother.
I mean,
That's
Murad's son.
Murad's
I
son.
don't know. I still never met him.
You know him. You just don't know.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is, let me get back to this. I met a brother after I moved back to here. Turned me on to New Jersey Muslim Network. Okay, so that was Mubashir's network. Then I was talking, and my brother, I called Imam Dawood. And he laughs, but I call him Imam because he's the leader in our community with that communications and with his history. So I was telling him.
He was captain.
I already know that. He had transitioned past that. Yeah, he transitioned past that. He's the Imam. Yeah. But he passed it to the brother, and I don't know the brother's capacity. I know he has technical. No, but wait a minute. Now you know I study IT.
Right.
You know I study IT. But you know I study IT. Now hold on, let me just say this. But people,
you have footballs up the back show.
That's all I got. So let me close it up.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Close it up. Because the purpose of me actually asking each of you to give your perspective from the video was just to tie in, because we didn't have that much time, of the purpose and the significance of your history, as well as this building, as well as the plans to expand this building, as well as to influence the community. Okay. So we're working, we've been, for the last week actually, we've been having consistent dialogue on our platform, the New Freedom Institute, talking about the importance of establishing a community development plan, a comprehensive community development plan, and we want to base it off of human excellence and also our cultural tradition. And so we're tying it in by this conclusion of this presentation was to tie all that in. And you all actually did that. We just got off a little bit.
Oh yeah, we freestyle.
That's the benefit of our community, is that we have all this, but we want to preserve it so, like you said, other people can get the benefit of this.
Right.
So to do that, you have to have your expression in institutions. Right? So we're going to have a course, we're going to have buildings, we also have to have an environment to cultivate that. And so that's the whole purpose of New Freedom and New Freedom District, is to have that as a breeding ground, just like you have in university cities and these other institutions. And so I appreciate everything that you all say. If you could just say your name, maybe, and if you want to say when you came in or not in the community, because we are recording for.
Well, edit me out.
No.
Well, edit to fit the. No, this is the master editor here. Yeah. Edit to fit the program.
It all fit in. It all fit in there.
Right.
So you can give your name and maybe we can.
My name is Guilford Hart. Actually, I was Guilford X, and that's my name.
Rahim, Mohammed.
And when you came in, what year did you come in? Or you were born in?
My parents were members of Nation of Islam from, my dad got his ex, I think. Well, he became an active member in 56. And I think he got his ex around 57. My grandparents, my father's father, was a member of the Moorish Science Temple, and he was a Moorish American. So, in that sense, my family had a generation of that. And my grandparents, my mother's mother, became a member of Nation of Islam, along with a large number of members of my mother's family and cousins, all became members of the Nation of Islam, heavily influenced by Malcolm X and Imam Mohammed in the late 50s.
Muhammad Shah, born Anthony S. I was Anthony S. I was born in 1957. I, grew up in the nation. I was pointing out to my son when Malcolm used to teach right down the street there on Brown and Lancaster. And Imam Warathy Muhammad was the Minister Wallace during that time.
Are you related to Sister Shaw?
Yeah, that's my mother.
Really?
Sister
Wow.
Shaw,
You might know my sister Amatullah. Mentor Salahuddin used to work with her at Fair Muhammad.
Yeah,
that's my grandmother. Yeah, that's my grandmother.
Okay, yeah.
That's Amatullah, yeah. Wow.
And
Excellent.
so I came up, I was junior FOI captain one time. Went to the University of Islam.
Wow.
Went to Chicago. Our first Savior's Day was 1967. We drove out there. And I went subsequently 71, 73, and 74, where when Elijah Muhammad gave the Savior's Day address was respect the white man. His flag is still flying. He took this land from the Indians. The Indian wasn't doing anything but hunting and fishing. And I knew the tone of his talk at that point was definitely different. And that was his last address to the Nation of Islam members. Because after that, 1975, I saw the satellite hookup at the marina, and that's when Imam Warathy Muhammad assumed leadership. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Leroy Mohammed, currently active member of the Nation of Islam. Stood up in the rebuilding process with Minister Farrakhan in 1979. I too was born in 1957, right in this area here. Watched Philadelphia go through its transition, and really have been taking in quite a perspective and loving it, and I'm very active in the city of Philadelphia now with a group under Minister Farrakhan called the 10,000 Fearless. And the 10,000 Fearless is a movement towards recovering our communities, making it a safe and decent place for us as a people to live. And that crosses all lines. So we sit with Jews, Christians, agnostics. The only basic premise that we have is that we start with this, but that doesn't mean that we're just limited to black people alone. This teaching has become so organic and so universal that we found out that God is mind. We found that out. So when you begin to network with people other than your own kind, what you want to look for is principles and character. And that was being taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Sometimes you hear, as brother had said a little earlier, that there was something that you take the good of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and throw away bad. I don't necessarily agree with that statement because I don't know what it was that he taught that was bad. Now, there may have been some individuals that done some bad, but what that had to do with the teaching? Nothing to do with the teaching. So where we are now in the progression of Islam is universal.
Good.
I'm Leroy Muhammad. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yes, so we like to end in prayer. We started in prayer. We all say our Fatiha together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go free will on you. I just haven't been around this circle.
No, this is not